I am but a simple man, a man who had a lot of free time at the beginning of 2020 for reasons, and a certain game had just released. Well, two games actually, Animal Crossing's New Horizons and Doom Eternal. Now, if you had the foresight to look at the title for this video, you'll know which one we're talking about, that being the prior, and more specifically, why it's absolute garbage. Now, before you go, oh Diego, you didn't give it a fair chance. Just because you watched a YouTube video and thought it looked dumb doesn't mean that it is. Listen, random person on YouTube, I spent 150 more hours than I care to admit playing this game. I earned this opinion. I get to make the video. That was the deal. I got New Horizons about a week after it came out and immediately got what all the fuss was about. I loved how cute the game was, the spectacular simplicity to the soundtrack, the amazing amounts of way you can customize your island to be exactly how you want it, and the wonderful characters. By the way, this man's name is Sprocket. He likes working out. He's the best thing ever. I have nothing more to say on the topic. He's literally Robot Chicken. What more do you want from me? Ignore the fact that he's a turkey. Anyway, after getting a 5-star island and personalizing every inch of my island to have a private area for each villager, having done everything I can in the game, let me tell you, it took a lot less time than I was expecting to get there. The game is very bare bones. Like, it has very little in it. I am far from the only person who thinks this is true as well. Whenever I talk to my villagers, they'll say one of 5 things and nothing else. And if there's another villager of the same personality type, which there will be, congrats, you now have at least 2 villagers to spout the exact same 5 lines. And what else can you do with the villagers, by the way? Well, if they're in their houses, you can go and get a recipe off them. Although, you can only get one recipe off a villager. Or at the very least, I've only ever got the same recipe off of any given villager, and if you already have it, then it's a completely useless recipe to fill up your inventory. And even if it's something you don't have, chances are it's a wall, meaning that it is also completely useless. Well, at least there are plenty of things to upgrade, and that makes you feel as though you're making a real effect on the island. Well, yeah. Actually, no. You can upgrade your house a few times, but other than that, you don't really upgrade anything. You can upgrade the nook and cranny ones, but, yeah, that's about it. Why do people like this game again? Eventually, this got to be too much. Walking around my island with nothing new today, talking to the same villagers who have said the same thing for the last 2 months. And this is when I realised that New Horizons is a bad game. Not because of the monotony of it all, but because it made me do the unthinkable. It made me go and buy the last game. When you're making a video game, under no circumstances should your release be in a state where people are moving to what should be an inferior product because it is a fuller experience. New Horizons is the 29th highest selling game of all time, and that is most likely inaccurate data for reasons we will go over later. It's probably much higher, and it really does not deserve to be. The game isn't finished, and they don't even need to admit it because the mere fact that they're bringing out content updates proves it. Not because you can't add on to a game once it's done, because I would say that Minecraft could have been considered finished at 1.8, and we're soon to be on 1.17, and these are very welcomed features. No, I know the game isn't finished because with every update the game has got, it's basically just been adding features from New Leaf. Which is a roundabout way of saying that they have been, for the past year now, and probably will be for at least the next 2 to 3 years, adding in features from what should be an inferior, soon-to-be 9-year-old game. Am I the only one that thinks that when you've had 8 years to make a product, it should at the very least be as good as the last one? I wanted to make this video about half a year ago when I first decided to buy New Leaf and play that one instead, but I actually didn't like it. I thought it looked ugly and I was kind of bored from the get-go, so I thought, hey, maybe this actually is an improvement. Maybe New Horizons is the best that it gets. And then last month I realised how wrong I was when I started up a new town, and for some reason it just clicked like New Horizons did. I was charmed by my villagers. I liked talking to the Nooks and Isabelle. I liked hanging out with my villagers. I liked getting a stable income and upgrading my house. I had actual ideas about how I wanted to design my house, unlike New Horizons. And then, on the day of writing the script, I had a few encounters and they made me want to write it, because it made me realise just how unfinished that game is. No, it's not because I learned that Nuke Junction has 4 upgrades. No, it's not because there are so many things you can do as the mayor rather than as island representative. It was the villagers. You know, the main draw of the... You know, the reason you played the game, remember that? I walked out of my house and one of my villagers noted that 2 of my villagers were getting in fights a lot, and it was true, I had noticed that, and they told me to go and ask them about why they were fighting, so I did, and after going back and forth, the conflict was resolved, which was already more depth than New Horizons has, but then I got someone wanting me to deliver a package for another villager, something that isn't in New Horizons also. And when I left, another villager was overjoyed to see me, so I spoke to them. They said they felt as though they didn't fit in Zanzibar, if you get the town's name reference, I love you, and they thought they should leave. Now, since I hadn't seen them before, quite frankly they had been there for a few days, I never thought to speak to them, I didn't really care if they left, so I said, okay. Now, this guy is rather egotistical, so when I gave that response, he went, wow, you guys clearly don't care about me. I am not fucking leaving. I'm staying here. You're not getting rid of me that easily. And that breathes charm. Something that New Horizons also doesn't have. Then another villager asked if I wanted to go to his place and chill out, so we did, which is another thing that isn't in New Horizons, and when it was time to leave, he let me buy me a piece of furniture from him. Yet another thing that isn't in New Horizons. When I went home, I saw my neighbour, and I spoke to her, and she asked if she could come to my place. Yet another thing that isn't in New Horizons. She also set a specific time to come over. Hey, are you noticing the pattern? That wasn't in New Horizons either. Now, keep in mind that all of this came from a game that came out 8 years prior to New Horizons, and are you starting to get what I mean by it's unfinished? I complain that this game was clearly rushed and unfinished, that it isn't even up to standards of a 9-year-old game, yet you sense hypocrisy, because some of my favourite games are unfinished, or at least were. Pathologic, one of the best horror games to ever be created, barely functions and is pieced together with what I assume are scraps of cloth. Or No Man's Sky, which with updates has become not only what was promised, but much more, and it continues to grow. So why? Why am I so annoyed about the game? Because I like it. I want it to succeed. I enjoyed over 100 hours with this game. Hell, if I deleted my save and restarted, I would enjoy another 100 hours of this game. But you're not supposed to delete your town. You're supposed to stick with it for years, decades even, if this time span between releases continues. Now, like No Man's Sky, they have been coming out with consistent updates. But the only consistency here is how far and few between they are. And the updates don't even really have that much content to them. I can count on 2 fingers all the important stuff that's been added. Okay, so there was the Leaf update. There was swimming, yeah, that was one of them. There was the fireworks, but I mean, who even cares about the fireworks, I guess. And what's it? The Dream Suite thing, yeah, that. But again, who really cares? Honestly, the only one of any of these four gameplay updates has been Leaf. Leaf is the only one that actually makes any difference because he adds foliage. Everyone else is really just stuff that you do when you have nothing else to do. This game has no content. New Horizons isn't a good game, it's just mediocre, and most people who spend an extended amount of time playing it think the exact same thing as me. Even the super kid-friendly channels who really just do positive stuff are only ever talking about what new things they wish were going to be added to the game, or talking about the next big update. So how do we fix this? Well, a good place to start would be actually updating the game. I don't say this to be rude, I do understand that there's a pandemic going on, but not only is Nintendo a massive company, but it is also a games company. This is a company that is capable of working from home. If it isn't stopping Atlus, a minuscule studio in comparison, from firing on all cylinders, it shouldn't stop you. But what do we do in these updates? See everything in New Leaf that padded out the content and made the villagers likable? You know, the ordinances, upgrades to buildings, the like 7 other NPCs that aren't villagers from the game, building projects like Resetti Center? Those. Add them. And more, please. Oh, and the seasonal stuff. Stop. If I see another egg, I'm boycotting the game. Honestly, if you just add all of this stuff, you'll have a great game that is already building upon the last one with better graphics, landscaping tools, and crafting. I'm not sure about the last one. Maybe just don't make tools durable because it just pisses everyone off. But I think what could really make the game is if each villager had their own little storylines, you know? Like, it doesn't have to be some huge in-depth story about, oh, my family member has cancer and I need to live without them, oh god, the tragedy, the woes, and then have one separate story for every single one of them. No, nothing like that. Maybe just if a grumpy villager felt bad about making a gloomy villager sad, and with you consistently having conversations with them, they would develop a temperament. Or maybe a villager's homesick and you can bring them things that remind them of home and it can make you have a better relationship with them. Or maybe certain villagers can take you to their own little deserted islands, and over time you two can build a little place that the both of you can just chill and have a bonding exercise there. Or some villagers might be able to teach you a trick, like how to sometimes get 2 fossils instead of 1, or only get the bags of money instead of coins when you hit the rock. Actually, that might be a little bit busted, actually. Also, if any of these things are in New Leaf, sorry, I haven't played it that much. Maybe only 40 hours of playing it. Just rewatch this video, but imagine I have a much angrier tone. Thanks. I really do want this game to succeed. I have enjoyed every game in the series that I have played, but in the state that the game's in, it's bad. And honestly, it doesn't deserve the at least 31 million copies sold. I say at least because those are just the physical copies, because Nintendo doesn't release download figures. Mine being one of them, and seeing as how most shops have been shut since the game came out for, reasons, I would be more than willing to assume that at least 60% of all purchases of the game were digital. So I'm assuming the figure is actually at least double that, which is quite concerning. And from a financial standpoint, yes, this game is a massive success, but from a development and gameplay side, it's clearly rushed, unfinished, and fools people into thinking that it's done because, they spent 2/3 of the game giving it the Nintendo levels of polish. And I hope that it will become a development success, but that probably won't happen unless they actually add to the game. Also, stop making me read 10 lines of the same fucking dialogue every time I want to sell something. Just add quality of life features, you useless fuck.